Welcome back to another episode of the Instot Career Podcast. I am with Sarah. Sarah,
Hello.
it cracks me up that people do the crazy things that they do. But Sarah, I think you just sent me a DM on TikTok and said
Yes,
you
I
did not
did.
go through the proper channels, which is fine.
Yep. Rebel through and through.
That's right. I think that's going to come up as we go through our conversation. But I've loved having these conversations with people that have been evidence that a quote traditional career path isn't required. And
Yes.
so thank you for being willing to share your story.
You're welcome. I figure unless someone proves otherwise, I've got one life. I might as well live it the best that I possibly can.
Right. And so that's I it took me a long time to figure this out. And
Yeah.
but it is so much more fun to live life on my terms than to live
Yes.
on what my dad told me was should be my priority in life or what my boss told me should be my priority. And so you have quite an interesting background.
Thank you.
And and I mean that with the utmost respect. Let's start with being a lawyer. Where did that
Yes.
start? How did that come about?
It sounds ridiculous, but I genuinely fell into it. I had done mock trial in high school for maybe 1, 2 years tops and just had fun with it as any high schooler does. It was nice and competitive. In college, I majored in psychology and had a double minor in comm arts and political science with a leaning towards political philosophy. And I had no idea what to do with myself. And my college roommate at the time was studying for her LSATs, which is the test that you take before you go to law school. And I thought, well, I don't want to get a master's or PhD in psychology. I had considered pursuing being a sex therapist, but didn't want to do what I thought was 6 to 8 more years of school, even though I loved schooling out. And so I literally took the LSATs on a whim. Did not score well, did not score poorly, but did well enough to get into Duquesne in Pittsburgh, which is the school I wanted to go to, and truly, genuinely smashed it out of the park. I was second in my law school class, first and second year, so I got a full ride for my second and
Oh,
third year.
nice.
It was such a blessing. And then I and ended up, because of my class rank, getting into a very prestigious international law firm and enjoyed some of it, didn't like some of it. And at the end of it, I ended up practicing there for about 4-ish years. And I am very much an entrepreneur. I'm very much a creative soul. I'm very much a networker, but being so low on the totem pole is very hard to have your own autonomy. And I'm still a baby. I'm still learning what to do. I don't have the experience yet. So there was a lot of hunger to do more, but constraints from managers that just didn't personality jive well.
Mhm.
And so one day my art was taking off. I was actually on medical leave because being a lawyer and the managerial pressures, if you want to phrase it nicely, were
Yeah,
just not copacetic for me.
right.
So I picked up my husband's paint, started painting, and then that took off.
So where did that start? What kind of art do you do and where did you start with your interest in art?
I've always been interested in art. Fortunately, with my public schooling, they always had art classes. I devoured them voraciously, whether it was painting, stained glass, theater, writing, anything liberal arts. I just soaked it in like a sponge. But it really was when I was doing medical leave and I wanted to relax. I thought, do you remember those little plastic perler beads that you'd like put on something and then you'd iron it?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
When I was little, because I'm neurodivergent, I would love mixing all the colors and sorting them. And so when I was on medical leave, I thought, well, do I buy thousands of perler beads and sort them to relax? Or do I paint with little dots, kind of mimicking the perler beads?
Yeah.
And so I said, let's try pointillism, which means painting dot by dot.
Right.
And then about a year into that, I said, oh, that's kind of boring. Frankly, want to eat my art. So I started making it more textured. And so what I do is something I call heavy textured pointillism, which looks like hundreds of thousands of Skittles of different sizes that people genuinely, when they see it, say, can I pet it? Can I eat it, etc.
Wow.
And that's exactly what I was going for. And then about a year after that, I decided, some of my dots look like flower petals. I wonder if I hand roll them, I could make flowers. And turns out, yes, I could. And that looks even more like icing because it
Ah,
looks like the cake florets you get on birthday cakes.
yeah.
So it's a very delicious tactile experience that my art evokes.
So you were doing that. Did you pick it back up when you were on medical leave, or were you doing it kind of side by side as you were practicing law?
I literally picked up paint for the first time since middle school or high school. So it was about a decade. I
Wow.
had been doing some ceramics. I had actually thought that I'd go to college for ceramics or do a trade in ceramics, but wheel throwing is brutal on the body. And it is a unforgiving profession in that you always have to be producing,
Uh,
and sometimes because of air bubbles in the clay or your pieces explode, and I did not want to deal with that heartache. So I went for lawyer thinking, well, let's be mature and responsible. But at the end of the day, I truly think you can't fight who you are for your entire life.
right.
And art came back to me.
Yeah. So I'm curious about where your husband was in all this. At what point did you guys get together and you made a pivot from law to
Yep.
art? And you have some other things mixed in there too, but where was he in this? Was he supportive? Was he apprehensive?
I think both. It
Yeah.
was kind of funny. We tease each other, and we literally had a little bit of that conversation just last night.
Huh.
Because, I come to the marriage with this juicy six-figure salary. I'm this high-powered attorney. I know who I am. And then it came to a tipping point, if you will, when one of my managers said to me, I know your art business is taking off. You have to decide between attorney and art.
Ooh.
And that's kind of like, if you're an artist, you just are an artist.
Right.
You can't tell an artist to stop creating. That is literally telling a human, stop letting your heart beat. That
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen that way.
Right.
And so I realized that there was only so much time left, at least at that firm.
Hmm.
And so my husband and I had a serious talk and said, let's give it one more year as the attorney. Let's see how the art develops. And then if you really want to dive in, we'll give it a go. And so, we tease each other tongue in cheek. Um, about who I was and who I am now, but it's channeling the same drive, the same
Mm,
entrepreneurial spirit, but now it's owned by me.
right.
And that has different challenges too, because
Sure.
I am my best and worst boss. I am my best and worst employee.
Right. So how long have you been doing the art full time?
over a decade now.
Okay.
It's either 10 or 11 years. So it's been a hefty chunk of time.
Yeah.
And so what I did with my art business is I would exhibit at outdoor art festivals,
Hmm.
and then I would also do custom commissions. So about half my business was custom high-end commissions, and then the other half were smaller, medium, and a few larger paintings that would sell at outdoor art festivals. But my husband, he would help me travel on these things. And outdoor shows are brutal. They are very, very hard. You're weather dependent. You never know. It's a little bit of a gamble, a little bit of a risk. And so, at least for this year, especially while I'm pursuing another entrepreneurial experience, I am not traveling to outdoor art shows. While I'm still selling some of my wares, it's a different business moving forward
Mm.
because now I've kind of, it seems like every 5 to 10 years I shed my skin a bit. I was a lawyer, I was a teacher, I was an artist, and now I am entering my poker CEO phase of life, if you will.
Yeah. So I'm curious because you alluded to who you were then as a lawyer, who you were as an artist,
Yep.
and let's throw poker into it as well. What's the difference?
I think for me, there's a lot of similarities, but I'm happier now.
Okay.
I breathe easier now. I am in control of my day like never before. When I was a lawyer, I was horribly conscious because I actually had to be conscious of every 6 minutes ticking by
Mm,
because we had to bill our clients in 6 minute increments. And then sometimes there'd be pressure to frankly fudge the numbers lower so
mm,
that clients still wanted to pay for the work. And so it would be this like not moral conundrum, but like mind fuck, if you will,
sure.
because you'd be putting in the work and then you wouldn't necessarily get the credit for it. Whereas when I'm in charge of my business, I know what's making money. I
Right.
know what's worth my time. I know what's worth my energy. And even if it's not making money, if I am holistically happier and sounder,
Yeah.
that is a good investment for me.
100%. So what's your husband's observation?
My husband's observation is I'm much happier. I am way less stressed. The bottom line money is less. I
Hmm.
won't lie about that at all. But at least for us, when we think about things as a unit, we're maritally sound, we're monetarily, fiscally responsible. We don't keep up with the Joneses. That's not our lifestyle. And I would gladly pay my salary to live a younger lifestyle
Yeah.
and be happier. I'm finally getting a few little gray hairs on my head,
Welcome to
but
the club.
yeah, but my coworkers, and I had mentioned this to you off the air, when I was telling them that I was leaving, at least half, if not more, of my colleagues said, I wish I had your talent so I could do the same.
Yeah.
And that's not to be braggadocious. That's more to say to your listeners, if you're thinking, should I? Yes, you should.
The answer
Just
is yes.
try.
Yeah.
Just try.
Well, and I don't I don't know that they may have said, I wish I had your talent, but I suspect what they were really saying is, I wish I had your courage.
Yes, I
Because
agree. I
the
agree with that.
talent, artistic talent is one thing that not everybody has, of course, but the courage to do something on your own. So I'm curious, was there, and I'm going to call it anybody's voices in your head? Were you living when you decided to be an attorney, was it based on patterns that you've been taught, based on I'll call it rules in air quotes, rules
Yeah.
that you've been told that this is the way that you're supposed to live your life to be a quote unquote success. Was there any of that, or was it just that this is kind of the way that showed up and you
Yeah,
took steps?
I think people want to say, oh, it was just me living my best life ever, making decisions all on my own. No, there was social conditioning.
Yeah.
There were people who said, this is the smart choice. There were people who said, don't do ceramics or art for X, Y, and Z. And I will say, even though this wasn't what you asked, at least 2 years after I left the practice of law, it it took a while for me to mentally be okay with myself
Mm,
because I really was and still am extremely proud of what I did accomplish in the legal world.
yeah.
And for better and for a lot of worse, a lot of my identity was tied up with my profession. I feel like that's a very Americanized thing,
Hmm.
especially because one of the first things you're ever asked when you're meeting someone new for the first time, hi, what's your name? What do you do? Well,
Right.
when you say I work at an international law firm and you can see the name in the sky, people pay attention to you. They
Right.
just do. And so there was a mental reckoning for a good 2 years where I was trying to tell myself, no, you're okay, sweetheart. It is okay to choose you.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you bring that up because there's so much about what we do that our job becomes our identity.
Yeah.
And it's it's not. Our job is not our identity. And separating ourselves from that, it's going to happen at some point because you're going to be fired, you're going to quit, or you're going to die.
Yep.
Something's going to happen. You're not going to be there, and your job is not your identity. And so, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because because of the law firm, because of the grades, because of the scholarships, it makes it really easy for you to believe that, oh, this is who I am. But the value is tied to the company or the position or the LSAT score or whatever it is.
What you're
And
supposed to do.
right. But it's not true. That's
Right.
identity is such a fascinating thing for me because I've realized for myself that identity isn't who I am, at least the way that I used to think about identity, who I am, which kind of plays into what you were talking about. People ask, what do you do? We think that our identity is shaped by what we do, but really what it is subconsciously is our identity becomes we accept as our identity what we think other people think about
Yes.
us.
Yes.
And that disconnection is where we have some of that mental or that personal reckoning that if
Yes.
I'm not an attorney, who am I?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's kind of a shame because if you tie it to just what you're doing when you're working, you're forgetting the pleasurable pursuits of life.
Right.
What makes it delicious?
Yeah.
And not every day needs to be a candy bar. That's not what I'm saying. But you should enjoy the buffet of life before you and not just stick to one meal that's supposed to be good for you that at the end of the day tastes bad anyway.
Right. Because it's not even what you want. It's what
Right. Someone
maybe
else
what
ordered for you.
mom and dad said, well, you should like this. You should
Yes.
like broccoli.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I
Exactly.
just don't. Sorry.
Yes. Yep.
So I love it. So artist um was quite a pivot and now poker. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I like to tease my family and say, well, played it fast and loose as an attorney, played it faster and looser as an artist, and then decided to go into something reputable and secure like poker. But I consider myself very much a recreational player. There's the difference between a rec player and a pro player.
Uh-huh.
And as much as I make a little bit of passive money playing poker, it's not enough to pay the bills. Like,
Right.
this is purely entertainment. But what I do to earn some money towards my bankroll, which is the money that I use to play and travel for poker, is I write articles, I write books, I interview people. And some friends and I just started a nonprofit that we're getting the legal paperwork finalized hopefully this month, to start a 501c6, which is different from a charitable place 501c3, to help with some of the legal framework and the rules that are affecting gamblers, not just poker players, and to make it a healthier, happier, sustainable hobby for people.
Hmm.
And not just hobby, I also want to help the pros out too. Um, but I think people still largely think of poker as this like seedy, there are guns or drugs or blah, blah, blah involved. And that's just what the media portrays because it's spicy.
Yeah.
Um, I'm someone who really likes to make a statement, and I like being one of the few women in the poker room, but it's time to get more ladies to
Yeah.
come and kick men's butts.
Sure.
And I very much like the social aspect of the game. I like the competitiveness aspect of the game. I like working on my own personal weaknesses, like when I get stubborn and prideful, that costs me money, and
Mm.
I'm working on that. It's just a really interesting ecosystem. And I think one of the few places, I'll be bold enough to say, I think genuinely one of the few places left in America where people of all different backgrounds, of all different religions, of all different political perspectives come together and say, let's do something. Let's
Yeah.
play a game. Let's tussle. And that's very attractive to me.
So how long you been playing poker?
I've been playing for about 3 years now. And when I say play, I mean for actual money,
Hmm.
because I had started really playing with friends online just for pride over COVID. But for about a year, I had played in college for like $20 with some friends. So
Hmm.
that it counts, but it doesn't. But once COVID restrictions lifted, I had so much fun playing with friends. I thought, why don't I give it a proper go? And it wasn't entirely magical at first. I wasn't making money. I was learning. People who have been playing for a while kind of consider that your tuition,
Hmm.
because you don't know what you don't know and you get your butt kicked.
Yeah.
So always, always, always make sure that you can afford to lose what you come to play with.
Right.
And if you can't afford to lose it, do not go to play with it, because that's how people do get into trouble.
Yeah. That makes sense. What has poker taught you about other areas of your life?
Oh, it is, I always considered myself a confident person.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know confidence.
Uh,
I thought I did, but confidence to me now means someone else is uncomfortable. I see that they're uncomfortable, and I say something to help them get more comfortable. Um, or when someone tries to push me around, I now look them in the eye and say, that's unacceptable behavior. I'm very protective of poker dealers, because to me, I used to be a waitress back in high school. And the difference between a waitress and a poker dealer is a waitress can leave the table. A waitress can go take a smoke break.
mhm.
A poker dealer is stuck at a hostile table for 30 minutes and can't run anywhere because they're
Yeah.
stuck at that table and they have to entertain 8 to 10 people at any given time. So I am very protective when a miserable poker player takes out their life's problems on an innocent employee. That's where I really take a stand. Whereas before, I might have been more quiet and mousy, just kind of watching, as some
Mhm.
people do. Um, so yeah, confidence. And then also way more trusting my gut.
Mm.
I, one of my weaknesses growing up is I would be socially conditioned to behave a certain way as a young, pretty lady.
Mhm.
And now I go, ooh, my gut feels weird.
Yeah.
Let me process that for 3 seconds. And now I'm going to actually do something about it instead of taking it home with me and regretting not saying something.
So where did that confidence come from? Was it from poker? Was it from just lessons as you learned the game?
I think it comes from 3 years of watching people make good decisions, make bad decisions, cheer themselves on, be rude, be nice, kind of deciding who I want to be in the
Mm.
poker ecosystem.
Yeah.
Um, I have decided that I would like to be a poker ambassador. And, there are paid poker ambassadors who are sponsored by casinos or online gaming sites or a teaching, website course thing. But to me, that's not an ambassador. That's a paid employee.
Right.
An ambassador is someone who says, hi, welcome. How may I help you? How do you want to best navigate this niche ecosystem? Because it is, it's its
Mm.
own ecosystem. It has its own language. It has its own characters. It has people who are, I'll say poker famous. When
Mhm.
you go around the system, you recognize them. And to me, I want to be someone that people can look to and say, she's a friendly face. She won't steer me wrong. She won't take my money. She will help me figure out if and how I want to exist in this new environment. That's very important to me.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm going to ask a question that I know the answer to, but I want to
Okay.
hear you say it. Who told you you could do that?
Nobody.
Yeah.
Absolutely nobody. I will say, though, surround yourself with good, supportive people
Yes.
because the top 5 people, I was listening to some TikTok. So I'm partially making this up and I'm partially ad-libbing from this TikTok. But the top 5 people you have in your life are the water, sun, and food to help you grow as a plant.
I love
And if
that.
you, yeah, and if you are not watering yourself properly, your roots will shrivel up.
Yeah.
When your roots shrivel up, so does your flower, so does your leaves. So, like, while you need to be in charge of yourself, part of being in charge of yourself means surrounding yourself with people who you don't use to suck up. You have to give back. It needs to be, a mutually beneficial relationship, but you need to surround yourself with good people. And
Yeah.
I'm not talking about just yes men because that's not helpful
Oh,
either, but you do need a support system. And I think a lot of people, and I will say poker players in particular, have this problem. Well, they'll surround themselves with people who are both rooting for them and then privately rooting against them
hmm.
because it's kind of a zero-sum game. No, 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 no. You need to find a team. You need to be a part of their team as well.
Yeah. I love that so much because one of the things that I found for myself is it is really easy to find complainers. It is really easy to find people that you can unload on and they'll unload and it's a downward spiral.
Yep.
But the power in a community really uh, exposes itself when you have people in your group who believe bigger in you than
Yep.
you do, and people that you can believe in bigger than they do.
Yep.
And I love that. I haven't heard it described as being the sun and that's but it's such a great way to think about it.
It's true. It just is true.
And I asked the question because I've lived most of my life waiting for somebody else to be that person. And I
Mm,
never, it has been for me really in the last year that I've realized, no, I am that person.
yeah.
I I don't have to aspire to be that person that walks into a room and just is the host of the
Right.
environment. I can I can be that person now. And it's uncomfortable
Right.
because it's an identity shift. But that there's so many people who are uncomfortable in their own skin. And if you can say or
Yes.
do something that's going to help them feel like, okay, I'm in the right room.
Yeah. And that, to bring it back to poker, poker has really helped me feel very comfortable in my skin because I'm an outsider, because I'm a woman, because I stand out. I'm very conscious of who I am and the images that I project. So sometimes I like playing the like, oh, how do you poker and trying that out. Sometimes I like being the badass who
Yeah.
knows everything at the table. It's very fun to play with your own identity and to explore yourself with yourself. And to your point, and to listeners who are thinking, well, that sounds scary. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because your nervous system is being challenged right now. That's why your heart is starting to pick up because it's that duality of excitement and nervousness. You're at the precipice. You're about to take a leap, but the thing that people don't realize is sometimes that leap leads to a gentle fall, but that fall doesn't have to be permanent.
Right.
And it might allow you to propel so that the next leap is actually a leap to flight.
Yeah. I love that. So, what advice? Let's just suppose that there's somebody who's
Yep.
following the rules, so to speak.
Yep.
They're in the career that they're quote supposed to be. This is what mom and dad or friends or whoever said you should.
Yep.
And they're just not feeling not just not fulfilled. They're feeling like it's draining the life out of them.
Yep.
What advice would you give them?
Stop allowing other people to live your life for you.
I love that so much.
I mean, it's just when you feel your life being drained away, it's because it is.
Yeah.
That time is not coming back. That does not mean that I'm asking you to live with regret. What I'm asking you to do is to say, okay, deep breath. This next step is going to be a little spicy, a little spicy. Plan for it. I'm not saying, I really like in many ways this motivational speaker called Gary Vee,
Yes, I
but
love Gary Vee.
sometimes, yeah, he's great. Sometimes though, I think he takes it a little too far, because as much as I do want you to, take that leap of faith, you need to start thinking marathon, not sprint.
Yeah.
People want the new them immediately because we're now conditioned to think, oh, I want to watch that on TV. I'll just turn it on and it's immediately on. Oh, I want to eat that. I'll just Uber Eats it. Everything is so instantaneous now. You expect to wake up tomorrow with the fully fledged 10-year art business. No, it takes time.
Yeah.
So give yourself the gift of grace.
Hmm.
Literally think about it like this. How long have you been miserable for? That's as long as I want you to dedicate to your new potential life.
I love that you're investing in your the version of you that you want to be.
Yes.
And it's going to take yeah, it's going to take some time. But part of that time is really just unlearning the lessons
Yeah.
that you've just assumed are true.
Yep.
This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it
We should be
truly has been.
friends.
We should be. I think we kind of are.
We are friends. I love it. If people want to get to know you, if they want to find out anything
Yes.
about your art or anything else, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
So I have a pretty easy name to remember. Think Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, but the Irish version. My name is Sarah O'Connor, no HOR. You can find me for art, Sarah O'Connor Fine Art.com. Very easy. Same thing for Instagram, although I've been a little bit silent on Instagram for a while. And then poker wise, you can find me on Twitter, Sarah Smartest, SMARASMARTIST. So like a smart artist.
Okay.
Or on TikTok, Poker with Sarah.
I love it. And I will put those links in the show notes as well. This has been a blast.
Yeah, this has been. It truly is. I'm excited for your listeners. I think this is a great podcast idea. I truly do. Best of luck to you, dear listener. Find yourself. You already
Yes.
know who you are. Allow
Yeah.
yourself to show others.
Trust yourself.
Yep.
Trust yourself. I love it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of this. And we will talk to y'all next week.